The hoof tells a story if you know how to read it. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you 5 commonly ignored signs that will show up in the hoof capsule that indicate that there's been inflammation or low-grade laminitis. You don't need to write anything down. I've made a cheat sheet for you which you can access. You don't need to sign up for anything. That's just for you to help you out. I just want as many horse owners as possible to get access to this information. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Debs Crozier. I'm the founder of the Hoof Geek Academy, where I've taught hundreds of horse owners and equine professionals how to spot the early warning signs of laminitis so they can take action before anything more serious develops. This is the last video in a 3-part low-grade laminitis masterclass. So the hoof will tell a story. You've got 9 to 12 months growth in the hoof. That's how long it will take to grow, top to bottom. So it takes about 3 months for the heels, which are shorter, hopefully. About 6 months in the quarters and 9 months for the toe to grow. And this will tell you when something's happened. You know, this is going to give you information as to when something was happening, because you can see where it is in the hoof. So I just want to say that 5 signs doesn't mean that things are 5 times as bad. You know, inflammation will affect the horse in a lot of different ways, so you can come up with a lot of different signs that will all indicate inflammation. More signs don't necessarily mean a bigger problem. So bruising is the first one. Inflammation can cause bruising in the hoof horn. And this can be from skin issues. You know, inflammation, we always think of it from being too much grass, but it can be from skin issues, particularly, obviously, around the hoof. And bruising can be covered up by periopal, so it can look like the bruising is just sort of appearing in the middle of the foot when actually it's not. Bruising will also cause weakness in the horn quality, so we'll discuss that later in the video as well. This photo is a good example of a ring of bruising, but also how you can see where the periopal there has covered the bruising, and you can't see the bruise through the periopal. So it looks like the bruise is just sort of appearing in the middle of the foot, but it's not. So yeah, that can catch people out sometimes. This hoof has got very mild bruising, just a little bit down the bottom, but you can see how that's caused a crack, and some infection has got in there around that bruise. So, you know, you will get all these things kind of ganging up, if you like. This one is a much milder bruise. There's other stuff going on in this foot as well we're not going to discuss here. But you see this yellowy bit. That's a mild yellow bruise, same as we'd get a mild yellow bruise on our skin. Bruising can be a mild colour. It doesn't have to be kind of bright red, although obviously it can be. Growth rings are a really good sign that you've had inflammation, and you can watch them grow down the foot, which is handy. So the growth rings will show the growth rates as well of the hoof in the heel and the toe. I'll show you some photos in a minute. But a growth ring should be a bump. You know, an event line would be more flat to the horn, where you can see a change in the quality of the hoof horn. But I'm talking about a growth ring, which is a ridge around the foot. So this growth ring here is quite good at showing you the different speeds of growth, where it's more angled down towards the heel, so the heel was growing faster. So that will tell you that the heels are growing faster, which is going to be useful information. Again, this hoof shows the growth rings are further apart at the heel, closer together at the toe. That will tell you that the heels are growing faster, and you can see you've got multiple growth rings. This was a horse with Cushing's who was very difficult to manage. This is much milder growth rings, and you know, you can see how the infection is getting in and eating through those growth rings. It's a black foot. I imagine if it was white, you'd also be seeing bruising in this foot, but of course you're not going to see bruising in a black foot. So yeah, that's a much milder but still very significant issue with inflammation for that horse. So infection, basically it's going to eat away at the bruising. So you will find infection if you've had persistent infection. If you're having inflammation problems, it gets in and eats at that bruising. Inflammation causes heat in the hooves, which makes it a much more inviting environment for any infection to get worse, and it's going to cause you poor hoof horn quality. and if you have poor hoof horn quality, infection will get in. So again, you can see how infection is getting into this foot, you know, through growth rings, through bruising and things like that. Infection can split right up the back of the foot, right up the back of the frog, and come out between the heel bulbs here. It can go really deep. And then in this foot here, you can see, you know, you've got that split through the back of the heel bulbs. You've got the wall infection in here. You know, without the infection, this would be a pretty reasonable hoof. But the inflammation is just causing that infection to be able to eat away at things before we can really get anywhere. You'll also be seeing heel problems. So low, weak heels are quite common with low-grade laminitis. We think of those very tall heels that you get with acute laminitis, but with low-grade laminitis, you tend to get low, weak heels, underarm heels, all kinds of problems like that. So as inflammation is more acute, you will get faster growth at the heels. And you can get long toes and stretched toes, which are another sign of inflammation. So here's a foot that's got really tall heels. You can see this coronary band is almost horizontal to the ground, which is what's telling you that you've got those tall heels from growth problems. Or this foot where you've got the heels are underrun. You can see the heels are actually low down on the ground here, and the toe is long out the front. So you've got both things going on here. Or in this hoof, you've got very underrun heels. You can see how low these heels are to the ground, and you can look on the back foot as well here. It's a quite good example of how low the heels are on the ground. But the toe actually isn't wildly long and shooting out the front. For this foot, the toe was okay. The heels were just running forward, so they can happen independently as well. And then stretched white line is a big clue that you've got inflammation problems. Obviously, it is annoying because you get stones stuck in the white line. And infection gets into the gaps, but stretched white line is actually an indicator that you've got weak lamina, which is as annoying as those stones are, and they're not doing you any favours. The stretched lamina is a much more serious issue. So if you look at the internal structures here, this white line fills in the gap beneath the lamina. So if your white line is stretching, then your lamina is stretching. So what it should look like, this beautiful thing, the white line should be kind of uncoloured, if you like. It's not white, sorry, I didn't name it, but it should be sort of slightly off-white, so you can see that slightly off-white here. The white striations that you can see that go into the white line, that's your inner wall, which is white. Sorry, like I said, I didn't name these things, I didn't make the rules. But yeah, you want this kind of pale, uncoloured white line. That's what it should look like, really tight, really narrow there. So what happens as it starts to stretch is those little striations get pulled out of the white line. So you can see we've got this yellowy white line here, which would be the mild yellow bruising colour that I was talking about with bruising. And you can see where the striations of the inner wall have kind of been pulled out where it was stretching, so infection has got into that. And then, little bits of gravel and things can quite easily get into that and make it worse again. And then this is a much wider white line. The pink on this hoof is actually just disinfectant, not bruising. But you see this white line is significantly wider where it's getting stretched. So those are 5 signs that you can look out for in your own horse's hooves. Go and visit hoofgeek.com/LGL and you can get the cheat sheet.